This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's Family.
All right, new day for the Phoenix Suns. Frank Vogel set to become the new head coach of the franchise. Let's get an expert's opinion on what to make of this. Let's head out live and check in with our friends from PHNX. Gerald Bourguet on the left, Espo on the right. Gentlemen, it looks like you've been talking about this move for a while now on the airwaves. What do you make of Frank Vogel becoming the head coach?
Hold on. Before we do that, Mark, you said expert. So which one of us is the expert and which one's just the guy sitting here?
The guy, let's see, hat, glasses. We're going to have to go to the panel on that one for the official rules. But
Gerald's the expert.
Right. Well, he has the best technology so far. He's the one who kind of got us the Bluetooth wireless microphone that we all set in front of the coach now. So thank you for that's your contribution to Phoenix sports along with your perspective. So we'll start with Gerald. Frank Vogel, good, bad, indifferent? How do you feel about it?
It's good. Not flashy, not overwhelming, certainly not maybe the definitive upgrade that you were hoping for when you move on from a guy who was important to what they were building as Monty was. But Vogel is a very good coach, and I think defensively with in-game adjustments, we're going to see that come playoff time. There are going to be questions about the offense, but overall, I think it's a good, if not, sexy kind of hire.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Gerald. The way I look at it is some fans wanted a Ferrari, you got a Honda Accord, and that's all right. You get good gas mileage, it's going to take you where you want to go. And it doesn't have to be flashy, which I think is going to be a lot of this offseason. It ain't going to be flashy, but it's going to be what you need to get to the hopefully the top of the mountain and be where you're seeing the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat are right now. They've shown the blueprint, and I think a guy like a Frank Vogel can come in and do what you need. He's Monty Williams without some of the baggage Monty had.
And, if he's a Honda Accord, I want to know what, Mike Malone is. We can maybe get into that discussion in a little bit. But you walk in, you have a championship ring. What do you think that brings inside an NBA locker room?
I think it brings a lot of confidence, and I think that's ultimately what won out when you look at the finalists for this job. Doc Rivers, another championship head coach, but hadn't done it since 2008. Kevin Young, an assistant, had never sat in the big chair. Jordy Fernandez, another guy that had never had a head coaching job. So I think that experience was huge for them, that championship caliber experience. And not just that, because obviously they've got the bubble championship from within the last 3 years, but he also took a Pacers team quite a few years back to multiple conference finals. I think they want somebody with a wealth of playoff experience, and Vogel definitely has that.
And I think it came down to they just needed a different voice in the room as well. I think after a little while, you can wind up wearing thin on a locker room. This will be a guy that comes in with a fresh perspective, a focus on defense rather than the offensive side of the ball, which should bring a new energy, with some of those guys that have been in that locker room a while.
All right, so the market for NBA coaches, if you haven't won a championship and have had two bad losses in the playoffs with a team that had championship aspirations, you become the highest paid coach in the NBA these days. And God bless Monty Williams. He was great here. I think he should go in the Ring of Honor, and I'm glad he got the contract that he did. But we're seeing guys who have won championships. There can only be one champion a year. Frank Vogel making half of what Monty Williams is reportedly making for the Detroit Pistons. So, Espo, we asked you, then go over to Gerald. What do we make of the NBA coaching market right now?
If you're in Detroit and you've had a bad team, you have to overpay. I mean, nobody wants to move to Detroit. I mean, just look at the real estate prices out there. But Phoenix, this is a desired destination. So you take a little bit of a cut, but you get to live in Phoenix and you get to coach Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Monty, they paid a premium because, you can come coach these young guys and deal with Detroit winners. So, look, Detroit had to overpay is the reality of it to get a coach of the caliber of Monty Williams, and especially when Monty didn't seem like he really wanted to go to that next job. So Detroit did what they had to, and the Suns weren't in that position where they had to overpay.
Right. I think you look at Detroit's situation and the fact that Monty was considering taking a year off, you have to add a little bit extra into that equation to get the guy that you want. And let's be honest, for the Pistons, there's not a better guy that they could have gotten for what they're looking to build, trying to implement a culture, trying to get these young guys all on the same page. That's exactly what Monty did here. That's what he did in New Orleans as well before that. And he's just a very good coach. Like, I know that he hit his ceiling here, and a lot of Suns fans kind of soured on him near the end for a variety of reasons, but he is a very good coach. So he deserved to be paid like a top dollar coach, even if it was a slight overpay on their part. Nobody's won more games over the last 3 years than Monty Williams and the Suns. So I think it makes sense if you look at Detroit's situation, but and also an owner who's willing to spend to try and get the guy that he wants.
Yeah, I just feel bad for Monty's family because now they know their time with their husband and dad is worth about $13 million a year.
Oh, so. Man.
You know what? There are only so many NBA head coaching jobs, and I think if you're Monty Williams, you're looking at that too and saying, look what this does for the market for NBA coaches and what agents can ask for here. So I think that might even be something like Pop saying, hey, I know you want to mow your grass in San Antonio this year, but get up there and you got to take that gig. As far as Kevin Young goes, I mean, we had the Bill Simmons report. He was going to be the guy. If you had to place a bet at the, I guess, is that a wager area behind you? Do you think that Young ends up on the bench back with the Suns next year or joins Monty Williams in Detroit?
It's a tough one. It really is, because it felt like it was going to be him for a while. It felt like they were going to lean towards the assistant who could be their next, Eric Spoelstra, as people are calling him, or whatever. But it's tough. I feel like if there are feelings of ill will, we'll know pretty soon, because Monty's probably going to be recruiting in Detroit. The Toronto Raptors still have a head coaching vacancy that Kevin Young was being considered for. So I think he obviously wanted to see this process through. If he feels some type of way about not getting the job, then I think there are other opportunities for him elsewhere. But I think if you're the Suns, you absolutely want to retain him. He's a guy that Devin Booker connects with well. And he's kind of one of the masterminds behind the Suns pick and roll attack. And with Vogel being a defensive minded coach, you want this kind of offensive minded lead assistant if you can get him.
I'd love to have him. I think he winds up as the head coach in Toronto. He was part of their process in the interview process. And if I'm him, I'm telling my agent, get over on the phone right now, call Toronto and say, hey, I want to be there and I want to build something with you. If he doesn't wind up with that job, though, I think there's a better than good chance that he's in that lead assistant spot.
Yeah. Well, do you have a feel for what any of the assistants will be on the Phoenix coaching staff? We heard, David Fizdale. I'm just looking for Frank Vogel to get suspended for a couple games, so maybe we can get some fun press conferences out of this deal.
Take that for data, Mark. Yeah, I like the Fizdale name if Kevin Young isn't gonna hang around in that lead assistant spot. I want whoever they hire to have a good relationship with Frank Vogel, because in LA he had to look over his shoulder at Jason Kidd the entire time and wonder is this guy going to stab me in the back? Am I going to wind up losing my job to him? I don't want to see any kind of situation like that. I want whoever Frank is comfortable with in that lead assistant spot.
Well,
totally agree.
Yeah. Well,
if it's not Kevin Young, it should be a Fizdale or a Phil Handy or someone that he handpicks himself.
Well, and you look at that Russell Westbrook situation over there. If Russell Westbrook is not brought into Los Angeles, do you think that Frank Vogel would still be the head coach there?
Oh, I don't know, maybe, but I think what he doesn't have to worry about is LeBron James being his GM here. He has to worry about LeBron's friend James Jones being his GM, but not LeBron himself. And I think that's the tough thing. But that's coaching. You don't fire the players. You usually let the coach go when there's a disappointing season, as we even saw here. So I don't know. He may still be there, but he got dealt a rough hand when he got let go in LA.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought on it as well. He was kind of scapegoated for what happened in that final season with the Lakers. And it happened very quickly after they had won a title. But you've seen that with lots of coaches around the league, like Nick Nurse, Mike Budenholzer, all guys that have won titles recently and were let go of their teams within the next couple of years. So I think maybe fortunately for the Suns, that was the case, that he was kind of cast in that role unfairly. And now we hopefully will be reaping the benefits of that.
Well, and you look at Frank Vogel's defense over the years, Roy Hibbert and the Pacers, and they were knocking at the door. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals for 2 years, and they won the title. A lot of rim protection there in Los Angeles, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis. Is Frank Vogel, in your opinion, and this is a hypothesis, but the guy that can unlock DeAndre Ayton?
I think the only guy that can unlock DeAndre Ayton is DeAndre Ayton.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. I think he will help with the rim protection. You look at DA's rim protection numbers this year, and they were down considerably from where they were, last season, 2 seasons ago when they went to the finals, and he was so important to their defense as kind of the anchor. So I don't think this hiring precludes you from a possible DeAndre Ayton trade, but if you don't trade him or if you're unable to trade him, this is kind of the right hire to get the most out of him still being here next season, to try and turn him into more of a rim protector and the type of defensive big that you saw from him 2 years ago.
Well, I'm really interested to see what he could do with the potential of Jock Landale, too, if they bring him back, because you see the energy, you see the motor there. And if you can harness that a little bit more, you might have one of the better backup bigs in the league there.
Well, and you look at the championship odds. I actually have not looked at them so far today. Have they moved? Have they moved in your estimation? If you bring in Frank Vogel, do you get a little championship bump there from the odds makers?
Maybe a slight amount. I mean, I can go over and ask here in a second. But my guess is, until we know what he's working with, it's like asking a chef, well, what's on the menu tonight? And he goes, I haven't even gotten the ingredients yet. How the hell do I know what's on the menu tonight?
Yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it. We've been talking for weeks now about who's the right head coach for the Suns, and to a certain degree, you can answer that because you look at the cornerstone pieces that are still in place, but there are so many unanswered questions as far as who's going to be around them. And as always, this is going to come down to not just who you have in the big seat, but who you're going to put around these guys, who you're going to get for bench help, whether they go after a third star or whether they look for complementary role players like a lot of these other teams that have made it to the Final Four are showing you right now. The Heat, the Nuggets, the Celtics, teams like that. You don't need a third star to compete in this league. They're already set with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Now you've got to kind of put the right complementary pieces around them.
But they do need a point guard. So, in your estimation, who's the starting point guard for the Phoenix Suns come opening night?
Technically, they still have one, but I don't know. There's a lot of smoke around that CP3 is going to be that guy. I don't see it, honestly, but that's what a lot of people are saying. But if that's the case, you better have a damn good backup point guard, because that's going to become a major key in this season with Frank Vogel.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably going to be Chris, but I do feel like they need to explore their options for both Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. You're paying 2 of those starters, $60 million for next season combined. That's a lot for, a guy who's getting older, who hasn't been able to stay healthy in the playoffs. And then for DA, who's been a little bit inconsistent and hasn't really lived up to the max money that he's making right now. So I think they need to explore deals. You don't necessarily have to make one, but you look around the league, you could probably get 80% of what DA does for half the cost. And something similar with Chris Paul. You need depth more than anything. And you just can't rely on either of these guys, as we've seen the last 2 seasons.
Is that Bo Brock behind you, by the way?
Oh, we got the whole crew out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
do they want to talk Cardinals
deep
after this, once the president speaks?
Hey, Bo, you want to talk Cardinals after the president speaks? He said no, he doesn't like you that much.
Okay, nobody does. Yeah, she'd come over to my house too. So as you remember when Bill Parcells would come into a new situation, I just think of him because Frank Vogel's a Jersey guy, and Parcells would bring in his guys. Do you feel like we're going to see Frankie's guys coming in like I don't even know if Caruso's available, some of the Lakers guys that won the title for him?
I feel like you're acting like this is a mob movie or something.
Frankie's guys.
He's gonna bring in some guys, you got Caruso and maybe we'll get a Dennis Schroeder. No, I'm sure there'll be he'll have some say in who the guys that come in and fill out this roster, and that it wouldn't shock me if there's guys familiar with him, because that can help, teach some of these guys his defensive system. Coaches like that. So
yeah, I can't imagine he won't be consulted a little bit at least. He probably won't have a ton of say, I don't imagine, but there's a reason they brought him in before the draft, when trades are going to start blowing up, before free agency, when they're going to start looking at guys. It's to kind of assemble a battle plan for this offseason and get some input from their new head coach, who's going to be here for the next 5 years conceivably. So
do you think he said the Frankie's guys things because he's got 2 Italian guys sitting here?
I hope so.
All right.
That would
just
be
wondering.
fantastic.
Hey.
We got to get you guys some pop. Man, there's a whole sponsorship deal. Like, what are we doing? All right.
We are Frankie's guys.
Hey, we're Frankie's guys. We take care of business,
If you put 3 stars in the court, you could just put you 2 guys out there and probably be in most games. Just stay in the corner, all right?
Gerald's in NBA shape. I'm more in basketball shape, as in completely round.
But hey, it's all right, man. It's the preseason. It's the off season. Hey, final question here before the president talks, and I have to be on the air at 4:00, and we appreciate your time today. If you had to take some money out of your wallet right now and go back there and place a bet on the Suns to win the NBA championship and have a parade in 2024, how much would you be comfortable wagering at this point?
Your salary, Mark.
Dang.
Not my money. I mean, I'll take your salary and wager it for you if you'd like.
It's not that you'd be digging out bills real quick there. So, all right. Well, that's good to know. So, plan the championship parade right here on Arizona's Family. We'll have you guys out, maybe out on the streets. You want to be the field reporters for the Extra Point?
Sure. I mean, nothing says fun like 110 degrees celebrating a championship. I'm in, Mark.
All right, wear a suit. Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. Hey, where else can we hear you guys this week, just so we can just kind of follow you with all the latest news with the Suns whenever it breaks?
Yeah, the PHNX Suns podcast. You can find us on YouTube and where you download your podcasts. And make sure to go to gophnx.com. Gerald has some fantastic written coverage on the Frank Vogel hire and what's going on in this offseason. And Mark, make sure to ask Joe what he thinks about the Frank Vogel hire if you get a chance to get some questions in there for the president.
I will. Yeah. That's coming up here in Arizona's Family here momentarily. So I got to run down there. Hey, guys, appreciate your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.